Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot Convention with the Weekly Comic Book Roundup. We've covered most of this week's Marvel books. Now it's time to, well, move on to this week's Avengers titles to wrap up the Marvel side of things. Kicking things off, we've got Avengers number 62. Where we left off, the Avengers had made their way back to 1 million BC, or close to that time point, in an effort to defeat Mephisto and his multiversal masters of evil. And they're not his, but you get the idea. Anyway, this issue actually does not focus on any of the modern day Avengers, but rather Agamotto. So after healing a proto-human of what appears to be various mystical ailments, Agamotto learns that the ailments were the fault of, well, Mephisto. Mephisto teases him and, taunts him, but this encourages Agamotto to get the band back together, as it were. First, coming upon Ghost Rider, Agamotto tells the Rider what he's learned. But others are brought together. Agamotto goes to speak with Iron Fist, and it turns out one of Iron Fist's new allies is in fact that era's Moon Knight. So he knows. Then he goes to speak with Starbrand. He offers to have Starbrand forget of the one he lost, but help him let go of his pain. But Starbrand doesn't want to let go of his pain. He wants to make others feel it. Agamotto is turned away at Wakanda, and then goes to Asgard, where he recruits Thor. Though it turns out that, or not Thor, but Odin. Turns out since Thor's birth, Mjolnir has been acting a bit more tempestuous of late. But Odin's in. He's totally down to defend Midgard. On one condition. She cannot be there. Though it's explained that the Phoenix has already left the Earth, so that won't be a problem. But Agamotto gathers the heroes, including Moon Knight, and brings them face to face with the Avengers. And that is where the issue ends. Things are ramping up. I believe that next month we're getting the beginning of the Avengers Assemble event, which will be basically a crossover between Avengers and Avengers Forever, and wrap up Jason Aaron's Avengers run. Moving on to our next book, we've got Black Panther Unconquered. This is a Black Panther one-shot. Black Panther T'Challa is having it appears to be having maybe not so much a crisis of faith, but some questions concerning faith. But a group has shown up in a small village looking for specific relics, one of which they find there. the group. Doesn't appear to be in any known database. Doesn't appear to be any known bits of intelligence. According to Shuri, their leader is the Archon. They're called the Volk. Their leader is they're a Germanic cult led by one who calls himself the Archon. They collect artifacts of history and leave suffering behind them. They are apparently zealots. But the spear that the Archon is looking for, he finds. Uses it to kill some of his own men. And calls out to a god named Magma. T'Challa fights off the Archon, or fights the Archon, but the initial fight is a bit of an L for T'Challa, though there's a sword that T'Challa finds and uses for round 2. Now the sword, in all honesty, there's something of a resemblance to a sword seen in, to the sword that Apocalypse wielded in Ten of Swords, Scarab, though smaller. But the Archon faces Wakandan justice. He says that Black Panther's done nothing. And as he's being led away, he states that they know that T'Challa knows. Later, T'Challa speaks with both Doctor Strange and Mr. Fantastic in the hopes of getting some additional eyes on this. There are 7. Basically, the idea is there are 7 weapons. T'Challa states that the Vault cannot find them. Mr. Fantastic would like to personally analyze the spear and the sword, while Doctor Strange says he'll look into Magma. The spear, Mr. Fantastic can study, but the sword of Bass is to remain in Wakanda. Reed's okay with this, and yeah. But later, T'Challa asks the wise woman he was speaking with early on if she knows of Magma. She does. And he asks what she knows, and that is where the issue ends. Like I said, I think this is a one-shot. I don't believe there's... I'm hoping that as has been a common theme lately with one-shots from Marvel, it kind of is a group of stories told, a story told through a series of one-shots, basically. And I think that's what we're getting with Black Panther Unconquered. We'll see what comes of it. Moving on to our next book, we've got Captain America: Sentinel of Liberty number 6. Where we left off, Bucky had shot and killed the revolution of the Outer Circle by shooting Steve Rogers. And admittedly, shooting Steve in the shoulder to knowing the bullet would go through Steve's shoulder and end up in the revolution. But this leads to a fight between Steve and Bucky. Bucky trying to say, hey, I can bring this down from within. I've got a plan, but it can't go into effect with you standing over my shoulder. But Steve and Bucky duke it out. Steve barely manages to escape, mainly only doing so by and the only reason that he escapes seemingly is in part because Bucky detaches his cybernetic arm, which Steve's holding on to. Bucky is understandably angry about this. He betrayed his friend. But he puts on a new arm and takes his place as the new Revolution. And that is where the issue ends. Now here in the back there's a cipher for the Outer Circle's code. Apparently there were a handful of coded messages throughout the Captain America: Sentinel of Liberty. Having read this, I looked over the previous 5 issues, and I found a strange message. Drink more Ovaltine. Odd, whatever. But yeah, all jokes aside, you know, I have to admit, I didn't start reading Captain America or really being interested in reading his solo book until the mid 2000s or so, when Ed Brubaker took over. And I have to say, at least since that point, there's been they've managed to tell some really good stories in there. So yeah, I'm digging, in all honesty, both Captain America titles at the moment. I'm eager to see where the two of them lead. I know that we're soon to be seeing a crossover between Sentinel of Liberty and Symbol of Truth. One of the 3 roadmap events mentioned, that Marvel has mentioned in some of their promos for 2023. Sandwiched between 2 X-Men events because, well, the X-Men. Moving on, though, to our next book, we've got AXE Judgement Day Omega. Now, first off, I just want to point out, there was not an AXE Judgment Day Alpha. So having an Omega, a conclusion issue called Omega is, I think, not the best move. Calling it Fallout or Aftermath, that would have been fine. Epilogue, even. But anyway, so Ajax became a Celestial after the Progenitor was stopped. The Progenitor undid all of the damage it had done. But so Makari is basically writing writing the gospel of Ajax Celestia. Then we get Zerus's Prime Eternal Daily Primer, kind of explaining some of the key points of things as they stand currently. Eros is a true Eternal and is to be treated as such. Position is Pope Minister for Change, advising Zerus, and will be advising Zerus during present times. Secret Resurrection is no longer a secret. All plans to make it a secret again are rejected. The Eternal's name is bad enough without any half-thought-out brainwashing schemes. It's likely that human civilization will collapse in a few thousand years at most, and they'll forget again. So they can wait. The Eternals are in a state of alliance with the Krakoan and Iraqi mutants, with various specific promises. Any Eternals acting against them for any reason will be excluded. This is especially directed to the Tricks. Zeros has seen them eyeing Mysterium, to which he said, as no, absolutely not. Similarly, they have reparations to make to the human governments. This includes access to energy sources and certain technology. The latter is their greed. They won't be able to understand anything. The former is acceptable. They can spare a little clean energy to people who can't who can't even reliably create fusion. Key idea, they have made mistakes, they must be better. Drug has been excluded. Ajax theses are self-admitted heresies. Anyone who follows her places themselves outside eternal society, and if their actions interfere with their principles, they will be captured and excluded. The machine was reset in the process by saving the planet. The changes were not reversed by the Celestial, presumably because it was the action of Phastos, not an act by its own hand. This is for the best. It does seem to have cleared up some of the recent bugs. Icarus goes to a woman's home in New York. Apparently, and woman attacks him. He takes the attack. She punches him. She tries to stab him. She throws a pan full of hot food right in his face. And basically, it's his penance, so to speak. More on that later. One of the Hex comes to visit Sally, the poet. The Hex that had an interest in poetry. But she encourages Sally to make the zine she was about making. Explaining that she'll be returned to the armory, but she wanted to speak to certain people, the families of those whose lives she stole, and that won't be pleasant. Eternal goes on to add that agrees that with what Sally states about the Eternals. How when one dies, a human dies, so they can be reborn, calling it fucked up shit. The Hex agrees, but the Hex state does. Sign states though while she's in storage, she will write laments for all she has seen and done, and if she's really unleashed again, she wants to know if she could share her poems with Sally's children or children's children. Sally's amenable to that, but Sign leaves as she's already causing a panic, doesn't want to cause further havoc. The Eternals meet at the Temple of Ajax Celestia with Arrow saying that he won't be joining them. But there's been a statue erected to Circe. And Ajax Celestia has written a thesis on the principles. The idea being protect Celestials, not just from external threats, but from themselves. Protecting the machine that is Earth, basically protect one another. Correct excess deviation. The basic thought is protect the weak from the dangerous. You have 24 hours to justify yourselves, which is basically act as the everyday matters, and they should act like it. But the main thing is to be principled. In the exclusion, we learn that one of the Zeros has gone to meet with Uranos, who is busy torturing his cellmate, Druig. But part of the peace treaty between the Eternals and Krakoa and Arakko is that the Iraqi, Martian mutants, will have access to Uranos's gifts for an hour at a time and place of their choosing. It's explained that while, yes, Uranos will be out during that period, he will be in servitude and bound to those who hate him. However, Uranos says that he'll still be out. However, and until that time, he is a toy to pass the time. There's nothing like a happy ending. In Lemuria, Crow and Athena are talking about things. Namely, the death of Cersei. With Athena even asking if if Crow thinks that they'll ever get back together. Though Crow states that they probably will, but let's hope not. Phastos appears on Krakoa with a message for Krakoa. Not the people of the nation, but for Krakoa itself. The basic idea being that Celestials arrived on Earth 1,000,000 years ago, transformed humans into Eternals and Deviants, using them as templates. They also created the machine itself. They looked for an inspiration for a huge sentient system that runs through the very planet. They found a living island already here. They used that as a template for the machine. And so it's a goodbye message from before the reset, or before the great machine was reset, saying goodbye, mommy, daddy, self, other. Elsewhere, Icarus is doing what he can to help people. He's trying to do what he can to help people. Staying with the woman who attacked him earlier. We're trying to figure out what to do to, how he could help. And we see him helping a family with a flat tire. They don't seem to have a spare, but Icarus makes a spare for them. And changes their tire. As the family drives away, the father realizes that Icarus didn't have a jack. How did he change the tire without the jack? Though one of their children sees Icarus teleport away. But basically, we get more quick panels of Eternals doing what they can to help others. And that is where the issue ends, wrapping up Judgment Day. I wouldn't say neatly, but wrapping it up. Judgment Day was overall decent crossover. I mean, it had a lot of the same, it has a lot of the same, plot beats that one expects. As is always the case in a major event when you have heroes on both sides, one has to be painted in a more malevolent manner, and it was kind of simple with the Eternals. So, but yeah, moving on to our next book, we've got Damage Control number 4. Where we left off, Gus had touched what appeared to be Terrigen crystals and turned into a giant hamster. Yeah. Anyway, so Gus is being transferred to R&D. Where he'll be working with Eugene. with Eugene Strausser. The first thing they have to do is figure out what is get Gus back to human size and form. But Gus is told not to mention the incident. We learn, however, that R&D has access to all manner of things. All the alien tech and unclaimed weaponry that gets left behind after a battle. A lot of it gets reverse engineered for use with damage control. But Eugene, there's also an incident where Eugene became something of a villain, and Gus has been told not to bring it up. So of course Gus brings it up. But Eugene decides that perhaps him and Gus could be a villainous duo together. So Gus is reverted back to normal. Eugene takes him to the raft where they meet the wrecking crew. Who, yeah, sure, they've been together for years. Which is the part that Eugene focuses on when trying to further sell Gus. But Gus points out, yeah, they're hanging out together in jail. Next, they go to an underground fight club where it's run by the Hood. The Who'd Win in a Fight Club. Currently, the current match going on is Juggernaut versus Rhino. But Eugene then takes Gus to meet MODOK, the leader, Red Skull, Madame Masque, Green Goblin, Wilson Fisk, who is totally not a criminal. He's a legitimate businessman and the former mayor of New York City. Loki, Doctor Doom, and the Green Goblin. It should also be noted that Eugene's been flying Gus around on a Goblin glider, which, well, Green Goblin wants back. But Gus, inadvertently suggests that Eugene touched the crystal that he touched and, become a villainous monster. So, everyone in damage control is called forth to deal with that. Gus is turned into a giant slug monster. Iron Man, War Machine, and Rescue show up, and among other things, demand all the bits and pieces of Stark armor that Eugene has appropriated over the years. A problem that is brought up is the fact that all of the name ideas that Eugene comes up with, either for himself or for a villainous duo, are taken. But the heroes continue to deal with Eugene as the issue ends, with Bart stating that they'll find the right spot for Gus and damage control, provided there is a damage control after Eugene's rampage. It's been a fun little book, and I think there's just like the single solitary issue left. So. Moving on to our last book and our second book from entry from the Distinguished Competition, we've got The New Golden Age, #1. So, at the end of Flashpoint Beyond, a handful of characters were released from stasis by the Time Masters, or had been released, were being held in stasis by the Time Masters and were released and basically being folded back into the timeline. So this focuses on the main thing is going to be in this book is kind of setting up concepts relating to more of the Golden Age properties up from DC. But the main focus, one of the big focuses is on none other than Helena Wayne. She apparently throughout her life she always seen at various points a stranger watching her. The stranger is in fact longtime Justice Society villain Prodegaton. But you get flashing to the founding of the JSA, which really feels like it's going for that team picture sequence from Watchmen, but not as dark. Dr. Fate sees a vision which includes Prodegaton and some of the forgotten heroes being folded back into reality. In the future, 1,000 years from now, the Justice Society Brownstone is discovered by Dr. Fate, Green Lantern, and Atom Smasher. Fate is promptly killed by Prodegaton, but in the past, Dr. Fate is trying to understand the vision he saw. In the 70s, we see him being checked out by Dr. Midnight when Power Girl and Star Spangled Kid walk in, demanding spots in the JSA, which has dwindled over the years. In the present, the modern Detective Chimp has taken the current Dr. Fate to what appears to be the Oblivion Bar, but he turns into Dr. Fate, and he has a bit of a vision showing Prodegaton killing the 31st century version of Atom Smasher and Green Lantern. We then see Alan Scott reading a headline from the Gotham Gazette about the Red Lantern, about the Golden Age Red Lantern. Other highlights include JSA testifying before the House Un-American Activities Committee, and also we see the night that Helena Wayne learned her father's greatest secret. She had seen the stranger constantly, and one night was ready for him. She woke up and heard something, heard a noise, so she'd taken a kitchen knife and hid it in her room. She heard a noise, went downstairs, saw a shadowy figure. Batman. Upon Bruce telling Helena that he's Batman, she promptly asked if her mother knew. Speaking of which, 13 years previously, Catwoman attempted to steal the Helmet of Fate, which caused Dr. Fate to see a vision of all the Dr. Fates dead at the hands of Prodegaton. But back with Helena, Bruce is showing her the cave and explaining why it is he does what he does, when Selina comes in, thoroughly mad that he's showing her this. And he's trying to say that, he's not going to turn her into a Robin, though he has no intention of making her a Robin, but Selena does state that it never is his intention, but it happens. Apparently, he made a promise to her that that wouldn't happen with their kid. That night, however, that's when Bruce Wayne retires from being Batman. We meet back up with Corky of the Time Masters in April of 1848 in Bel Air, Maryland, talking with a young man named John, who's going to be an actor, but he'll be more well known for assassinating a president in Ford's Theater. But the Time Masters show up, and they're not too happy with the fact that he's done this. But it's stated, explained they have to find Dryburgh before he's found by somebody else, such as the biological parents of Clark Dryburgh, or Ozymandias' fangirl, or worse yet, Reggie Long. Either way, they have to find the boy before anyone else does. But there's a brief flash from the future with Helena. Also, apparently, Detective Chimp is trying to get Deadman to help Dr. Fate with Howhat. Helena discovers her father dead. And ends up going to the Justice Society for help. There's also rundowns of the new Golden Age characters. Golden Age Aquaman, Betsy Ross and Molly Pitcher, Cherry Bomb, who appears to be... then we've got the Harlequin's son, John Henry Jr., the Boom, Ladybug, the Red Lantern of the Golden Age, Mr. Miracle, Quiz Kid, Salem, the Witch Girl, and Legionnaire, though nothing is really revealed of Legionnaire. Only that among his paraphernalia appears to be a time sphere and a Legion flight ring. Interesting. This is supposed to be kicking up. There's supposed to be a new Justice Society book kicking off soon. I will go ahead and just say, and this is, I may have brought this up last week with Flashpoint Beyond, or with Flashpoint Beyond's conclusion. DC seriously has a Watchmen problem. I mean, it comes from, keeping Watchmen in print perpetually to screw over Alan Moore, but, yeah, they really need to just stop trying to make Watchmen in the DCU a thing. It doesn't work. Anyway, that is going to do it for now. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal account in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying, live long and rock hard.